Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk is live and direct on a Thursday. Greetings and salutations. We're with you for the next 3 hours, provided my voice makes it to 6 p.m. here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our video channels. That's 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, WIBW News on Facebook. However, wherever, whenever you are joining the program today, thanks so much for being a part of 580 Sports Talk. My name is Dan Lucero. I will be with you solo for the majority of the show. Brendan Dworzinski will drop by for a bit later on. Spencer Dupuis is out today. 3 hours of sports talk for you on this Thursday and plenty to get to. We are starting the countdown today, folks. In 50 days, the Kansas City Royals open the 2026 Major League Baseball season. Well, more accurately, they open their 2026 baseball season. There's a game 2 days prior. The Dodgers open up on the day before the big opening day, and then there's league-wide opening day, March 26th. And then for whatever reason, the Braves decided about like a month or two ago to push their own home opener back to Friday, March 27th. And the Braves will be opening against the Royals. So there you have it. Opening day for the Royals is March 27th, and today is 50 days until that day. So we're going to bring a conceit to the program that people really seem to enjoy when we did it ahead of the Kansas City Chiefs season. We did 100 days to kick off, and we'll do 50 days to opening day for the Kansas City Royals. And again, because it's a similar conceit to something we've previously done, we'll look at the roster each day and see if there is a number that corresponds with the number of days until opening day. And wouldn't you know it, there is a number 50 for the Kansas City Royals. That, of course, is left-handed pitcher Kris Bubic. So we're going to talk a little bit about the will he or won't he be traded nature of Kris Bubic's offseason, which technically isn't over because pitchers and catchers don't have to report until next Wednesday. But I think the Royals, A, are going to keep Bubic, and B, they really need him to be available in 2026 because I think everybody has a point when they argue that the Royals need more offense. But I think the most important factor for the club's success in 2026 is going to be their pitching. This is a team that is built on pitching, and they need their best pitchers on the mound. And Kris Bubic is one of their best guys. So we will get into some baseball on the program today and start our countdown to opening day. So excited for that. It is more than halfway through the Big 12 basketball season. Some teams getting their 10th games in last night. Oklahoma State knocking off BYU, and Arizona State beating UCF. So a couple of upsets, a couple of bottom half of the league teams beating top half of the league teams. But anyway, as we hit the halfway point, I've got my midseason awards for the Big 12 Conference. Got my Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, Newcomer, Defensive Player of the Year. And because the league did it last year, I'm going to do it for my midseason awards. My first team all-league picks are going to be 10 players deep and not just 5. And let me tell you, it's hard enough to get to 10. I left some guys off I wanted to put on the all-league team. But last year, there were 10 guys on the Big 12, all Big 12 first team. And so if the league can do it, why can't I? So we'll do those mid-season awards later on in the show. One of our guests today will give his thoughts on who his mid-season picks might be for Big 12 awards. CJ Moore from The Athletic will join us at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. We will talk to CJ about all things Big 12 and major college basketball, the Big 12 Hoops Breakdown, we call it. He'll join us at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour today. He's one of our great guests. Another one of our great guests today is Rick Peterson of TopSports.news. He'll join us at the bottom of this 3 o'clock hour for the local sports spotlight. We'll chat about all things Shawnee County High School sports and take a look at the Washburn Ichabods as they prepare to open up the bat and ball sports. In fact, they already have opened up softball. Baseball gets going this weekend for the Bods. So we will get into that with Rick Peterson coming up at the bottom of this hour. And we're going to squeeze in some Super Bowl talk today as well. It's a battle of defensive-minded head coaches. Mike Vrabel of the Patriots, Mike McDonald of the Seahawks. And with seemingly every team in the league, when looking to hire a coach, chasing the next great offensive mind, will the success of this year's Super Bowl teams and their head coaches make it more palatable for teams moving forward to maybe look for the next big thing on the defensive side of the ball and start a new trend league-wide? We'll get into that in the show today as well. Plus, our usual Thursday fun. We'll do What Is Wrong With You. We got a bunch of headlines to get into today. We'll do either or over under, and we'll do that as a communal experience today. It's you and me, listener and host. I've got an either or for you guys to answer in the 5 o'clock hour, and I'd like you to bring yours to the program when we do that segment coming up in our final hour today. How can you interact with the show? Same ways as always. You can text the program, 785-272-9429. That is 785-272-9429. You can also hit me up in the live chat on our YouTube stream. Again, the name of the YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have yet to do so. And as we broadcast live from 3 to 6 on the YouTube channel, there is a live chat that goes on during the show. You can jump on in there, say hello, introduce yourself, interact with your host and your fellow listeners. A good afternoon to Paul and Vance. Mark H. is in the chat. Andrew as well. Look forward to hearing more from you guys and from the rest of you folks who jump into the live chat today over on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. And yes, you can see that for a third day in a row, I have dug deep to get a Seahawks jersey out for the Super Bowl week. Didn't have to go maybe as far back for this one. This is a more modern era look. Obviously, it's the modern era Seahawks jersey. This player is actually a really good cautionary tale for why I've kind of gotten out of the jersey buying game by and large. But this is an Earl Thomas Seahawks jersey. One of my all-time favorite players. I thought he was a sure shot first ballot Hall of Famer. Then the end of his career got kind of strange. Then his personal life got really strange and really unfortunate. And I'll be frank, I'm a little worried about Earl Thomas, and I don't think I'm the only one. I hope wherever he is, he's doing better and making better decisions with his life. But it's not a jersey I dig out much these days because of how that all ended. But he is a Super Bowl champion Seahawk. So, again, it's part of the wardrobe. It's jersey number 3. I got one more for tomorrow. I bet you can guess who it is. No, it's not Sam Darnold. But we're showing those off on the YouTube today here on 580 Sports Talk. As we continue on the show today, again, we'll get into your texts. We'll get into your comments on the YouTube. But I do want to begin today with our countdown. We are going to start the countdown today. We did 100 days to Chiefs kickoff, and a lot of you seem to really enjoy that. And so now we're taking it to baseball. 50 days away from Royals opening day, Kris Bubic days until Royals opening day, if you'd like. A thing that can happen sometimes, the off season seems a lot longer for baseball than it does for the other sports. And for like hockey and basketball, like the off season is like 15 minutes. Football, you're never in the off season, right? There's not really an off season in the NFL. You're always have something going on. It's the free agency period. That'll start in less than a month, the new league year, and you've got free agency, you've got the draft, you've got the schedule, you've got rookie mini camp, you got OTAs, and then you get to training camp, and then you get to the preseason, and your football team is always right in front of your face. Right in front of your face. And so baseball is very different. Baseball lets you relax a little bit. the hot stove is on, and for some teams are more active during that period than others. But typically, you really are only thinking about your team when they do make a move. There's not a draft. There's not really like a frantic period of off-season moves. They're all pretty scattered throughout the winter and the early spring. Baseball goes away in a way that football does not. So as you try to dive back into it, you're aware, all right, baseball's coming back. And unless you're like an absolute sicko, and I know we got some absolute sickos who listen to the show, there's an absolute sicko for baseball who hosts this show. It can be forgiven if, by virtue of your team disappearing a little bit, you kind of forget some of the details of what happened the year before, particularly if the year is not particularly memorable, which for the Royals last year really wasn't. They went 82-80 and missed the playoffs. But in case you forgot, over the long winter, Kris Bubic was awesome in 2026. In his 20 starts, he posted a 2.55 ERA, and that was not a fluke. That was supported by the peripheral numbers. His fielding independent pitching ERA was 2.89. So not much separation there, supporting the ERA and suggesting that he really was as good as that ERA would suggest. He was above average in strikeout rate. He was above average in walk rate, and he was well above average in keeping the ball in the park. Only allowed home runs on 1.3% of the plate appearances against him. Now, unfortunately, he only made those 20 starts, and not many after making his first All-Star game, because he injured his arm. He had a rotator cuff strain that kept him out for the final 2 months and change of the season. And we haven't heard a lot about his recovery, and honestly, no news feels like good news in regard to recovery from that particular injury. It didn't require surgery, which is always good. You never want to hear about shoulder surgery, especially not for a pitcher with the Tommy John surgery on his resume. So it seems as though all systems are go for Kris Bubic to return to the Royals rotation in 2026, even though we went through a winter where there was a lot of speculation that the Royals, A, would trade a pitcher for a bat, and B, that pitcher would most likely be Bubic because he only has 1 year of team control before becoming a free agent. Well, that hasn't happened, and Bubic remains a Royal here as we speak on February 5th. And I anticipate that he will remain a Royal as spring training progresses and will remain a Royal when the regular season opens. Should things not go according to plan for the Royals, but Bubic is healthy and pitching in the month of July, he will be one of the most in-demand pitchers at the trade deadline. It could help the Royals bolster their farm system. If he's not doing that, he's probably bolstering a run for the American League Central title. Kind of a win-win, as long as he stays on the mound. And that, to me, is the biggest swing point, the tipping point, if you'd rather, for this Royals season. It's not the offense. It's not, can Jack Caglione find his production? It's not, can Jonathan India bounce back? It's not, how much does Isaac Collins add to the lineup? It's not, can Michael Garcia prove last year wasn't a fluke? I definitely don't think last year was a fluke, by the way, for what that's worth. We'll get to Michael Garcia, I'm sure, later on in this countdown, but last year wasn't a fluke. He's that good. He really is. To me, the Royals' success is predicated on their pitching. That has been the case for the last 2 seasons. They have been as good as their arms. And an improved offense, I do think, raises the ceiling for this team. But ultimately, I think whether or not the Royals are back in the postseason has to do with the availability, because I don't think the ability is in question, the availability of their 2 best starting pitchers, Kris Bubic and Cole Ragans, who I guess we have to skip over because he wears number 55. Sorry about that. We'll talk about Ragans now as we're talking about Bubic. So we made a lot after the 2024 season out of the fact that I think the Royals' 6 best guys started 157 out of 162 games That year you had Reagans, Singer, Lugo, Waka, Marsh, and then Lorenzen added at the trade deadline. And those 6 made 157 of 162 starts. That is exceptional. That is exceptional, and that is good fortune when it comes to starting pitcher health. The Royals experienced something like the flip side of that last year, though a broader view shows that last season, Kansas City's 6 best starting pitchers, last year that was Bubic and Reagans, along with Lugo and Waka and Lorenzen and Noah Cameron. Those 6 combined to make 140 of the 162 starts. That's pretty good. That's a big part of the reason why the Royals were able to sustain the level of success that they did and have a winning record last season, even though the offense struggled and even though their 2 best starters, again, were not very available. Of those 140 starts from the top 6, Bubic and Reagans made just 33 of them. 20 for Bubic, 13 for Reagans. I think a reasonable expectation to set for any starting pitcher, particularly one with an injury history, and Reagans and Bubic both have the same scars, right? In a literal sense. Both have had Tommy John. Both dealt with rotator cuff strains last season. I think a reasonable expectation, maybe it's not 35 starts, but what if it's 25 starts? What if both guys make 25 starts in 2026? That'd be 17 additional starts that you're not asking starter number 6, starter number 7, starter number 8, a reliever in an opener role to have to cover. And it's not just that those guys aren't making those starts. It's that 2 of the best left-handers in the American League are making those starts. Don't you think that might be worth a couple more wins? If you think baseline, this team is right around that 81, 82, 83 win mark that most of the projections have them at, and I do, don't you think that ceiling rises with the more additional starts you get from Reagans and Bubic? I do. And that's why I think they're keeping Kris Bubic, because I think that the Royals are living in the now in a way that a lot of small market teams aren't. A lot of the smaller market or mid-major market teams in the league aren't operating on that basis. A lot of them are thinking about, well, how can we position ourselves to load up our farm system? And then maybe we can be good in 2028 or after the lockout, we'll get our ducks in a row. We got a shaky ownership situation. We're losing TV revenue because FanDuel Sports Network went belly up. There's a lot of teams, a lot of them in the Royals' own division, the Guardians, the Twins, who are really thinking into the future and not so much concerned with competing in the here and now. For the Royals, the here and now is everything. For the Royals, competing in the here and now and winning in the here and now is important for a lot of reasons. Not all of them are on the field related, mind you. What kind of baseball team are fans going to be more excited to vote yes on a stadium ballot measure for? A good one or a bad one? Right? John Sherman's no dummy. Civic pride might contribute to, should another vote come in front of the people of Kansas City and Jackson County, the votes needed to get the money that they don't really need, but they want from the public to build a new stadium for the Royals. That's part of the calculus here. I won't pretend it isn't. But there are compelling on-the-field reasons that the Royals are living in the now. Number one, Salvador Perez has more baseball behind him than he does in front of him, right? I don't like to think about a vision of the Royals without Salvi on it, because he's been the character and the personality and the heart and the soul and now literally the captain of the Royals really about since he got to the team. And the Royals know this, and they want to maximize their ability to be competitive while Salvador Perez is still contributing to that winning. I think that's important to them. I think that's important to that front office. I don't know that they've ever gone public and said that, but I do think that is important. And I also think it's even more important that they're competitive while Bobby Witt Jr. is on the portion of his contract that doesn't have an opt-out. If you want Bobby Witt Jr. to be a Royal for life, if you want him to follow in the footsteps of a Salvador Perez, an Alex Gordon, a George Brett, if he's going to be that guy for this generation of Royals baseball and this generation of Royals fans, you got to be competitive so that he can see the vision is to be competitive. Because if Bobby Witt Jr. surveys a team as he enters his prime years, his late 20s, gets into his 30s, the opt-out appears in his contract, he's not going to want to hang around a rebuilding team. He's not going to want to be a part of a team that's only halfway in on winning. He's going to want to be on a winner and contributing to winning, contributing to postseason baseball. So that's the way I see it. I think the Royals see it as they owe it to Bobby and they owe it to Salvi to be as good as possible while those guys are wearing the uniform. And I dramatically approve of that approach. I could not be more in favor of that approach. Give me that rather than the way some other small market teams, Colorado, have treated their high dollar superstar young players. Sign them to an extension and then go into the tank. The Rockies still haven't recovered from doing that to Nolan Arenado and then trading him to the Cardinals for 25 cents on the dollar and then kicking in $50 million besides. Imagine if the Royals ended up doing that. Having to trade Bobby Witt Jr. and kick in money because Bobby wants out because the team's not competitive. That's not a scenario that John Sherman and J.J. Piccolo and this Royals brass is going to end up in if they can help it. So they're here to win now. They'll worry about Kris Bubic's free agency when Kris Bubic's free agency shows up. And if the smart thing to do at the deadline becomes trading Kris Bubic, they'll do the smart thing because these are smart people. But right now, in the here and now, the best version, the best chance the Royals have, especially now that their chief opposition in the American League Central has formed a vicious 1-2 of lefties at the top of their rotation, with Framber Valdez signing with the Tigers last night to complement Tarek Skubal. The best version of the Royals includes Kris Bubic in the rotation. And that's where you're going to see number 50 with 50 days to opening day. When we take a timeout, we'll come back. We got some listener reaction, got some text. 785-272-9429 is the text line. Give you some other great number 50s in Royals history. We've got some college hoops we're going to get to. Rick Peterson joins us for the local sports spotlight, bottom of this hour. CJ Moore, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour for the Big 12 basketball breakdown. We are just getting started on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. 3:32 on 580 Sports Talk. Rick Peterson, TopSports.news, going to join us here in just a little while. Some thoughts from the listeners. Well, first, I do want to get to this from the 785, and usually I am loath to do this, but I'm a softie and I'm also a dad, and so I think I know kind of where this is coming from. So from the 785, I will give a birthday shout out to Addie and Ryder for you. Happy birthday to Addie and Ryder. Typically don't do a lot of those, but happy to do one in this case. Addie, Ryder, have a happy birthday. Hope it's a great day. Hope you get to eat all the cake and ice cream you want. Also from the 785, baseball offseason seems longer to me because the season is so long. I mean, they do. They play 162 games. It's a marathon. They do need all of that time off. And then you've got, obviously, the weather-related logistics of playing baseball in March in Cleveland or New York or wherever. But yeah, it is. It is a long off season. And it strikes me that, as you get revved up for baseball, it's, gosh, still 50 days out. The spring training is long. Spring training probably doesn't need to be as long as it is. Well, I'm glad it's long this year because it leaves room for the World Baseball Classic, which I typically enjoy. But yeah, it is. It is a long off season for sure. Some thoughts from the live chat on our YouTube stream. Again, 580 Sports Talk. We are live on YouTube. Paul points out, hey, Royals need to learn a lesson for the 2025 Chiefs. Don't falter in the waning year of a legend's career like the 2025 Chiefs had with Travis Kelce this past year. Don't falter in the waning years of Salvi's career. Those guys choose to be Kansas City players for life. Reward them. And they're similar in terms of building around their stars. Mahomes for the Chiefs and Bobby Witt Jr. for the Royals. You have your superstars, build them around them, commit to a winning culture. That is exactly, I think, the best way to put it. The Royals are trying to build a winning culture around their best player. And you owe it to that player because I don't think Bobby Witt Jr. signs a contract if there wasn't a real commitment from the Royals to do that while he's wearing the uniform. You take care of your own and make sure they get a chance to win. Make them want to wear that uniform for life. Because, look, if there's anything that is true about the history of Kansas City, if you are a lifer and you compete for championships, you hung the moon in that city. They'll build you a statue. They will. There'll be a Mahomes statue outside that new Chiefs Stadium one day. 100%. There should be a Kelce statue, too. Should be a lot of statues. I'm always in favor of building statues. They're easy places to meet outside the stadium. They're great photo ops. Build more statues. I'm in favor of more statues. Big statue guy. Anyway, it is 50 days until Kansas City Royals opening day, and it got me to thinking about other 50s in Royals history. Remember Jason Adam, the reliever from the Kansas City area? I don't remember which Blue Valley he went to. I think he's a Blue Valley kid. One of the Blue Valley schools, one of the directional schools. I should look that up. I should have that information instead of just kind of grasping for it. But Jason Adam came up as a Royal. He's Blue Valley Northwest. He's an Overland Park kid. Pitched for the Royals for one season. Wasn't particularly great. The Royals cut bait with him. Now he's one of the best relievers in baseball. Made the All-Star team last year. Royals were a little quick to cut bait on old Jason Adam. Other 50s in Royals history. Two-time All-Star Jose Rosado. He's the best number 50 in Royals history, at least unless Bubic makes another All-Star game this year. Rosado only pitched 5 games in the major leagues. He was a two-time All-Star. One year he was the token All-Star because the Royals were terrible and they had to have one. His second All-Star season, he was actually good. Year after that, made 5 starts, got hurt, never pitched in the bigs again. So it goes. But Jose Rosado is the best 50 in Royals history, at least for now. Jimmy Serrano wore the number 50. I want to tell you, he is the villain of my first ever trip to Kauffman Stadium. The first time I ever went to the K, it was in 2004. I was making the drive from Denver to Indiana for my freshman year of college. So my whole family's seeing me off, so we planned to stop in Kansas City to go see a ball game. And the Mariners were in town, which meant Ichiro was in town. I never gotten to see Ichiro play, so I was very excited to see an all-time great, who you already knew was an all-time great, suiting up for the Mariners. In his second at bat, the Royals starter, Jimmy Serrano, hit him in the head with a fastball. And Ichiro came out of the game. And that was the only time I ever got to see Ichiro play, and Jimmy Serrano domed him. I've never forgotten that name. I've never forgiven Jimmy Serrano. Also, Ambiorix Burgos wore number 50 for the Royals. There was a time when he was the hardest throwing pitcher in the American League. He is maybe the worst human being to ever wear the Royals uniform. Go check out his Wikipedia page. Can't get into it all, but like domestic abuse is like the least of it. Bad, bad, bad guy. So Kris Bubic obviously doing the number 50 a little prouder than old Ambiorix Burgos. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back with Rick Peterson of TopSports.news for the local sports spotlight on 580 Sports Talk. We are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline by the great Rick Peterson of TopSports.news. He joins us every Thursday at this time for a little thing we call the Local Sports Spotlight, taking a peek at all things Shawnee County High School sports and the Washburn Ichabod's Pistol. Can you believe it's already February?
Yeah, it's gone pretty fast. The pace slowed a little bit when we had the tournaments back to back, but I don't like February, but I'm really starting to look forward to postseason. And postseason's just around the corner.
Just around the corner. What's the order of operations there? Who gets to regionals first? It's swimming, right?
Well, swimming actually doesn't have regionals,
right.
So they'll be the first. They've got league meets next week, and then they'll go the next week to state. And boys state is here in Topeka this year, so that'll be good. We got city bowling in the morning. We got Centennial League and UKC wrestling on Saturday. So we're in crunch time.
That's right. It's league wrestling this weekend. Then regional wrestling for the girls is the 13th and the 14th. And then the regionals for the boys are the weekend after that, and state at the end of the month for wrestling. Obviously, end of the month starts basketball postseason. Yeah, it's all going to be coming pretty hot and heavy at us as we get into the month of February here. Speaking of basketball, let's get into a quick preview of our game tomorrow night, our 580 Preps Friday night game of the week doubleheader from the Dungeon. Topeka High playing host to Washburn Rural in Centennial League action. It'll be our first look at Rural this year, Pistol, and typically solid years for both Junior Blues programs. Girls are 11-4, boys 9-6, dealing with some injuries. Very nearly knocked off Blue Valley last night despite the injuries. Lost by a point in a late basket by the visiting Jaguars, or the Tigers rather. But solid seasons for Kevin Bordewick and Alex Hutchins' team as they both seek a return to the state tournament.
And both have dealt with, Rural has played this season without Maddie Vickery. And then right now the boys team is without senior starters Simon Rowley and Sean Hoytel. I'm hearing that Rowley's about ready to come back. John's situation is a little more in flux, which is a huge loss for them because he was a great rebounder, a good scorer, a good defensive player, and just a really good leader. So, they're kind of dealing with some stuff. It happens, and hopefully both those teams, kind of get healthy as the season goes on. Brent Anderson, freshman for Washburn Rural Girls, has just been great and has really helped take up the slack there.
It'll be an interesting girls game because Washburn Rural this year, they're not a real high-scoring team. They're not a team that plays with a great deal of pace. And then you've got Topeka High, their opponent tomorrow night. They like to push the pace. They like to speed you up with their outstanding guard duo of Kamara Marshall and Shai Rayton. Bit of a styles make fights element to that girls game tomorrow night. That should be a really interesting game to watch.
Well, and Washburn Rural, Kevin Bordewick's teams always kind of pride themselves on defense, and they will be looking to slow down those two you just mentioned, as well as Haley Carroll. And then the other thing about that is, they lost to them last year. High got them last year, and so that always kind of sticks in their craw too.
The boys game, you mentioned Washburn Rural working through some injuries, playing tough in spite of all of that, which you'd expect for an Alex Hutchins coach team. Topeka High, on the other end, they're making doubters into believers this year. They're up to 9 wins after they handed Emporia their first Centennial League loss of the year on Tuesday night. They reached the championship game of the TIT. This arrow is pointing up for Robbie Sanders' group. They seem to be starting to peak here as February gets going.
Robbie Sanders has done just an absolutely great job, and those guys have bought in. They're not real big, and so they're gonna, they have to shoot the ball well to play well. But they, like you said, they beat Emporia, and then also they were right there with West until West pulled away late. So they've shown that they can play with anybody, and I think I wouldn't want to play them in Sub-State right now because they are getting some confidence and they are feeling like they can beat about anybody.
Rick Peterson of TopSports.news, our guest here on 580 Sports Talk. It's the local sports spotlight. You mentioned City Bowling coming up this weekend. Let's pivot there. Give us a little bit of a City Bowling preview. What players, what teams come in a good run of form and have a chance to take home the always competitive city championship in bowling?
Well, Seaman girls are just very, very good. Washburn Rural girls are coming off a big championship. So those are the two that you got to look for right off the top there. And then on the boys' side, Rural and Seaman are always good. But Hayden was a state champion, won a state championship last season, and has Kelton Meyer, who's just been tearing it up all year. So and then Shawnee Heights won a state title 2 years ago, and they're bowling well. So I think it'll be a good fight on both sides.
Let's shift to the mats because you mentioned we've got regionals coming up the next 2 weekends, not this weekend, but the next 2 after that for wrestling. The girls will go first. As you look at the city's girls wrestling scene, once again, it's Washburn Rural and Shawnee Heights setting a pace.
Yeah, they are, and both of them are ranked as teams and have several individuals ranked. And I was out at the Washburn Rural Invitational last week, and it was really competitive. And when that Centennial League meets a dual format, and that duel between Manhattan and rural girls is just going to be crazy good. And then in the UKC, as good as Shawnee Heights is, Baser's ranked number 1, so they got to deal with them. So there's gonna be some great competition, and it's going to get teams ready for state here in just a few weeks.
Rick Peterson joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. It's a local sports spotlight with Pistol from TopSports.news. Let's shift to the Ichabod's, Pistol. It was National Signing Day yesterday. 34 players in Zach Watkins's signing class for the Ichabod football team. And we had a chance to hear from him on the show yesterday, but he sounds extremely excited. What does he feel like are the strengths of this 34-player signing class?
Well, what he told me leading into that and announcing those yesterday was that they felt like they upgraded at every single position. And for a team that's trying to bounce back, from now 3 losing seasons in a row, that's exactly what you need. On top of the 34 high school signees, and Zach's told me, they're always priority is always going to be the high school ranks. But they also brought in 17 players with college experience. So I think they're thinking they not only just, take a step, but they take several steps forward next fall.
It's also time for the bat and ball sports to get underway for the Ichabods. We've already seen softball taking to the diamond to start the season. They went 4-1 last weekend out in Mansfield, Texas. They play in Bentonville, Arkansas, with 5 games on the schedule this weekend. What's the season outlook for Brenda Holliday's Ichabod softball team? Do they look to be competitive at the top of the league as they typically are?
Well, yeah. I mean, they had an up and down season last year, still won 30 games. And they probably should have been 5-0 right now. They let a lead get away in the bottom of the 7th in one of those games, where they bounced right back into the tournament with 2 run rule victories. I think they brought in some good transfers, and I think they're thinking as good, if not better, than last year. That league is very, very, very tough.
As for Ichabod baseball, they're trying to fight their way out of the middle of the pack where they've kind of been ensconced the last couple of years. What's the reason for optimism and hope this year for Ichabod baseball under Harley Douglas as they get ready to start their season?
They're a little bit of an unknown. They lost a lot of players off last year's team, but they brought in a lot of JUCO transfers and newcomers, and I think they're really looking forward to this weekend, because I think Harley and the whole team will know a lot more about the Ichabods after this weekend.
Couple more questions for Rick Peterson of TopSports.news as we do the local sports spotlight here on 580 Sports Talk. We'll finish with Ichabod Hoops. They've got the kind of mini bye this week. They don't play a midweek MIAA game. They're back in action Saturday in Warrensburg at the Multi against Central Missouri. But 2 more wins for the number 1 team in America. They remain undefeated, and in either game, where they trailed very late against Fort Hays State on Thursday and then had a sickness kind of rip through the roster on Saturday out in Kearney. Any of those games offered an excuse to drop the rope a little bit and let go of the unbeaten run that has started this season. But this team just refuses to do that. What does it say about the character of this squad that they have remained unbeaten despite facing the adversity that they did on the road last week?
Character is a very good word, Dan, because they did. I mean, they were basically beat at Hayes, and they just refused to lose and came back and got it to overtime and then dominated overtime. And then, Coach Ballard and I talked quite a bit yesterday. all of a sudden Saturday morning he's getting texts and half his team's really sick, not just a little sick, really sick, and they still gutted it out and got that. Now I think Saturday is just going to be a monumental battle for both teams. The Central Missouri women beat Washburn in Lee Arena earlier, and then everybody remembers that men's game. It went to double overtime, and I think the Mules are going to feel like they got something to prove, and it's going to be a supreme test.
The Washburn women rebounded from a loss at Hayes to beat Kearney on Saturday. They're sitting at 8-4, still got an outside shot at getting into the top 4 of the MIAA standings by the end of the season. Central Missouri's a tough matchup for them, though. Beat them the first time around. What's going to have to change for Laura Westling's bunch this time around?
I think Washburn always plays good defense. And they're going to have to play good defense because that's a very good offensive Jenny's team. But I think the big thing is get the ball in the hoop. It sounds simple, but it's a lot harder sometimes, and that showed in the first game. And in the first game when they played Central Missouri, Widata got hurt and didn't return. So, but basically I think the question mark is offense. Can they score enough against the Jennies to get the job done?
Rick Peterson covers high school sports in Shawnee County and the Washburn Ichabods at TopSports.news, along with his outstanding staff that's everywhere Pistol can't be. It's a daily read. It's a daily must read if you care about local sports, and we appreciate Pistol joining us every Thursday here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline for the local sports spotlight. Pistol, take good care, and will we see you at the Dungeon tomorrow night?
You will. I'll be right beside you, buddy.
Perfect. We'll see you then.
Thank you.
That is Rick Peterson. We'll take a timeout, come back, and wrap up this 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. Our thanks again to Rick Peterson, TopSports.news, for joining us here for the local sports spotlight on 580 Sports Talk. Winding down this 3 o'clock hour. Coming up at the 4 o'clock hour, it's mid-season in the Big 12 in basketball. Okay, maybe 1 or 2 games past the actual midway point for a couple of teams, but put together my honors for the mid-season, from Player of the Year to Newcomer of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, and my 10-man all Big 12 first team at the midway point. it was hard to get to 10. It used to just be 5, right? Well, last year they put 10 on the team. So if the league's going to put 10 on their season end all Big 12 team, I'm going to put 10 on my first team all Big 12 midseason honors. And it was hard enough to get it to 10. I could not have gotten it to 5. No chance. I would have made somebody really mad. Multiple somebodies, probably, with the cuts I would have had to make there. But we'll do that, and then we'll talk about it with CJ Moore of The Athletic, college basketball writer. He'll join us for the Big 12 basketball breakdown. Plus, we'll do What is Wrong with You coming up in the 4 o'clock hour as well. Still got headlines, still got some Super Bowl 60 talk, little game of either or over under later on as well. 2 more hours. Hang with us here on 580 Sports Talk on WIBW. Let's get it. Hour number 2, 580 Sports Talk on this Thursday afternoon. Dan Lucero rocking with you here on the Sports Voice of Kansas until 6 o'clock tonight. 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and live in living color on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and our Facebook page, WIBW News. If it helps you to know this, I feel better than I sound. I think a lot of people are dealing with a little bit of a seasonal illness. There's been a cold rolling around. My wife was sick last week. I don't have any cold symptoms really. I'm not congested. I'm not blowing my nose every commercial break. I'm not dealing with chills or fatigue or anything of that nature. My voice just hanging on by a thread, which I would prefer all of the other stuff to not having a voice. If I were in here wearing a coat and a stocking cap because I had the chills and I'm got a box of tissues, industrial grade size of tissues, I keep having to mute the mic and blow my nose, I would prefer those symptoms to not having a voice. Kind of important to have a voice in my line of work. I don't know if you guys knew that. That's maybe a little inside baseball for you. But in the radio business, it's always good to have your voice. And you can tell mine's in rough shape, to put it mildly. But I got plenty of hot tea at home, and we're gonna do our best to we're gonna fight through today. We're gonna fight through tomorrow. We're gonna fight through tomorrow night. We got high school basketball coming your way here on the Sports Voice of Kansas tomorrow night. 580 Preps Game of the Week doubleheader action from the Dungeon, Topeka High and Washburn Rural in Centennial League action. Looking forward to being there with the coach, Larry Latimer. He just might have to talk a little more than usual. That's all. We'll be on the air with that about 5:45 for the pregame tomorrow, with the tip-off of the girls' game scheduled for 6 p.m. Again, that is the 580 Preps Game of the Week doubleheader on 580 WIBW. But that's tomorrow night. Tonight, Jerome Tang Show at 7, but we're done here at 6, which means we have 2 more hours to hang out together and plenty to discuss in those 2 hours. Coming up here in a bit, I'm going to give you my mid-season Big 12 basketball awards. Technically, I missed the mark on the actual mid-season by a day because there were 2 games in the conference last night. One of them, big upset, Oklahoma State taking down BYU. The other, kind of a big upset too, Arizona State, who's not very good, beat UCF. So unexpected results in the Big 12 last night. But that got those 4 teams up to 10 out of 18 league games. So it's a halfway point for 12 teams in the league. And I saved it for today because we got CJ Moore coming, bottom of this hour, for the Big 12 basketball breakdown. I want to get CJ's thoughts on who he thinks is his mid-season conference player of the year, coach of the year, and other conference honors. So that's coming up this hour, plus a little What Is Wrong With You. Brendan Dworzinski is going to pop in for that. And still, we got some headlines in the 5 o'clock hour. We got some Super Bowl 60 talk in the 5 o'clock hour. We'll play a little either or over under. You and me together, listener and host. We'll play either or over under coming up in the 5 o'clock hour today. You can text the program. 785-272-9429 is the number. That is 785-272-9429. Also, hop in the live chat on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. We are live on the YouTube. At the same time, we are live on the radio, 3 to 6 every day. The video stream is live. So you can listen on the radio and jump in the YouTube. You mute one or the other, probably make the most sense. And when you're watching live on YouTube, there is a live chat feature. Jump in. Water's fine. Interact with your fellow listeners and grow the 580 Sports Talk community. And while you're over there, again, subscribe at 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Vance suggesting a laryngitis cure from the famed the famed Dr. Jack Daniels in the YouTube chat, which I appreciate. If anybody's got a sore throat remedy they would like to share, I'm curious. That's my random question for you today, although it's not random because it's what I'm dealing with. What is your tried and true sore throat remedy? Text the show, 785-272-9429, or drop it in the live chat on YouTube. My go-to is a tea that they sell, and the name of the tea is Throat Coat, which is a funny name for a variety of reasons, particularly if you tend to be a little immature like I do sometimes. It's kind of a funny name for the tea, but I swear by it. Throat Coat tea with honey. I had a cup of that last night. I'm going to have probably about 3 or 4 of them tonight, and maybe about 3 or 4 more of them tomorrow. And that's sort of my go-to. Do that, then drink a lot of water, drink a lot, just fluids in general, lozenges. I'm a Ricola guy. All due respect to Halls, who've come through in the clutch in my life, but I'm a Ricola guy personally. But those are my sore throat remedies. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a losing battle at present, but I have faith in what I know. But if you've got one to share, please, 785-272-9429 or the live chat on our YouTube channel. All right, we are midway through the Big 12 basketball season. And it's a good checkpoint to name some midseason awards. Taking a look at the state of the league, again, Arizona is in first place because they are one of 2 undefeated teams in the entire country. So they are also undefeated, wouldn't you know it, in Big 12 play. They're 9-0. They are first place. They are also number 1 in the KenPom as of last night. Michigan didn't play, but they dropped a spot. They were number 1 going into last night. Now they're down to number 2 because a couple of their opponents took bad losses. Michigan State lost to Minnesota. Gonzaga lost to Portland, not the Trailblazers. That would have made sense. They lost to the Portland Pirates. Pilots. Sorry, they're the Pilots. I misspoke. I can't blame my sore throat for that one. They're the Portland Pilots. They were 22.5-point underdogs, and they beat Gonzaga last night. Crazy result. Anyway, so Arizona's now number 1 team in KenPom, and they're number 1 team in the Big 12 standings. Houston is 8-1. They're number 6 in KenPom. Iowa State and Kansas, 4th and 11th in KenPom, respectively, are 7-2 in the Big 12. Then you have Texas Tech at 6-3. They are outside the top 20. They're 22nd in the KenPom. They're 6-3. They're 5th. UCF is 6-4. BYU and West Virginia are 5-4. That's the top half of the league. Bottom half, Oklahoma State at 4-5. TCU, Cincinnati, both 3-6. Baylor, Colorado, and Arizona State, all 3-7. I forgot one game. There were 3 games in the league last night. Baylor and Colorado played too. Very forgettable game, as it turns out. Baylor won, and they beat Colorado. And bring up the rear, Kansas State and Utah, both 1-8 in the league. So start here. Who's the player of the year in the Big 12? A lot of good candidates. A lot of really big-time talent in the Big 12. But I'm a big believer. If you've got the reigning player of the year in the conference, somebody better be substantially outplaying him to take that honor away from him. And I don't think anybody is substantially outplaying Texas Tech's JT Toppin, who won the player of the year honor last year and came back, and he's 3rd in the league in scoring. And he's tied for 1st in rebounding. He's the best player on a team that's top 5 in the standings in the league and has a shot to win the league. And I just don't think anybody has taken it from him. There are some other good candidates, and we'll get to them when we talk about my mid-season first team all-league picks. But, like, for example, I can't give it to A.J. DeBonza over JT Toppin because while DeBonza leads the league in scoring, I don't think he's been more additive to winning than Toppin has been. Because Tech's beaten some really good teams this year. BYU does not have a win over a team inside the KenPom top 25. even though they themselves are inside the top 25. They're 18th in the country in KenPom. But they haven't beaten a top 25 team. And they have 4 league losses. And in some of those league losses, DeBonsa hasn't been real good. Like, he wasn't good against Tech. He wasn't good for most of the game against Arizona. He wasn't great against Kansas. He was really good last night. He had 36. But a night like that, he goes off, and that wasn't enough to beat Oklahoma State on the road. So I can't give the nod to DeBonsa, even though he leads the league in scoring. I just don't think anybody else has been as complete. Toppin can score from anywhere. He's not really reliant on three-pointers or free throws to get his points. He does his damage around the basket, and he still manages to be third in the league in scoring. He can rebound. He can distribute. He's an all-around player, and nobody's outplaying the guy with the title belt. He came into the league as the best player in it and the preseason pick to repeat as the conference player of the year, and I see no reason why he shouldn't. DeBonsa, though, is my newcomer of the year pick, and this is simply because he's been more available than Darren Peterson, because if Peterson had been more available, this is probably just a coin flip, but DeBonsa's been there every single game. He's been there. He hasn't sat. He hasn't left games in the second half and not returned. He's always in crunch time, and he leads the league in scoring. There are a lot of really good newcomers in the league this year. And just looking at the freshmen, this used to be a freshman of the year honor, I think. Now it's just newcomer of the year. But, I mean, look at the freshmen in this league. Look at what Koa Pete has done at Arizona. Look how good Kingston Flemings is in Houston. There are other really good newcomers that fit the newcomer description because they're transfers in. Melvin Council's eligible. He's been a great newcomer for Kansas. But I still think it's got to be DeBonsa, even though, again, there are faults with his team and faults with their resume, and he hasn't been great every single night. I'm still more in favor of giving newcomer of the year to a freshman than to a transfer. That's a sort of a philosophical decision for me. I just think it ought to go to somebody who is new to college basketball and not just somebody who's new to the Big 12. So my lean is DeBonsa. He's been, even in the games he hasn't been great, he's still scoring in the teens to the low 20s. He's still giving his team a chance to win. It's not like they're getting run off the floor in their losses. So DeBonsa is the pick for newcomer of the year for me at the midway point. Defensive player of the year. Well, listen, I tend to trust the judgment of people who know more ball than me. And I know a little ball. But you know who knows more ball than me? Bill Self. Bill Self knows more ball than I do. He's got the 2 title rings to prove it. And if Bill Self says Flory Badunga is the best defense player in the country, then Flory Badunga is the best defense player in the country. And he's darn sure my midseason pick for defensive player of the year. Him being able to switch and guard big wings and big guards has been transformative to a Kansas defense that started the year kind of iffy, but now is into the top 10 in defensive net rating in the KenPom rankings. They're number 9 in the country defensively. That's what you typically see from a Bill Self team, a top 10 defense. And they are a top 10 defense largely because of Flory Badunga, his athleticism, his versatility, and what he has done in a role that is not easy. He is the starting center for the Jayhawks and is frequently guarding 2s and 3s and 4s and doing a whale of a job. So with all due respect to lock-up guards like Taman Lipsey of Iowa State, it's an easy choice. It has to be Badunga because no one player has been more transformative to the success of his team's defense than Flory has. Most improved player in the conference this year. Did you know who Joshua Jefferson was before the season started? I bet you did not, unless you were a diehard Iowa State fan. This is honestly one of the easiest awards to give. Last season, he averaged 13 points, about 7 rebounds, and 3 assists. He was a fine player. This year, he's a guy who's a big part of the reason why Iowa State has had the kind of success they had, starting out with a 20-2 record. He's increased his scoring to 17 points a game. He's increased his rebounding to nearly 8 per game, and his assists are up over 5 per game. For a 6'9" big, he's handing out 5 assists per game. He's been a part of the success of the other players on that roster, Taman Lipsey, Milan Momcilovic, and others. Joshua Jefferson, I think this is probably the easiest one. And if I had to sit here right now and say which of my midseason awards I feel the best about being the end of the year choice, it's probably most improved. It's Joshua Jefferson of Iowa State. Coach of the year right now is kind of between two guys. Coach of the year is such a funny award in all sports, from the college ranks to the professional ranks. Baseball, where it's manager of the year. Hockey, basketball, football. Coach of the year might as well be called coach of the team that overperformed preseason expectations the most. They almost never give it to the team that's coached by a guy who's got a consistent track record of winning, and everybody expects his team to win, and then his team wins. Like, TJ Otzelberger's not in serious consideration for this thing, even though maybe he ought to be, because, again, his team is 20-2. Tommy Lloyd's got an undefeated team. I didn't even think twice about him. This award typically goes to the team that everybody thinks is going to stink, and they don't stink. They make the tournament. It's the congratulations for not sucking award, the Coach of the Year award. And there are two guys who fit that particular bill. One of them is Steve Lutz at Oklahoma State. They just coming off of a big win last night. Ken Pom doesn't really think Oklahoma State's actually good. They're still not a top 50 team in the Ken Pom, but they got 16 wins. They've got 4 wins in the conference, and they got half a chance to return to the NCAA tournament. That program was in a really bad spot when Lutz took it over. But right now, I think I got to give the nod to Johnny Dawkins at UCF, because that is an entirely new basketball team. They didn't bring back anybody who had a stat for them last season. And it has congealed together. Feels a little 2022-23 K-State-ish. A little bit of lightning in the bottle for this UCF team. They're 17-5 overall and 6-4 in the league, even though they had a bad loss last night to Arizona State. 17 wins at this stage in the Big 12, barring something unexpected. UCF is going to the NCAA tournament. And UCF was projected to finish 14th out of 16 Big 12 teams in the preseason poll. So the congratulations for not sucking as bad as we thought you were going to suck award, yeah, Johnny Dawkins is the lean right now. So that brings me to first team all-league. First team all-league was 10 players at the end of last season. So I decided that I would put together 10 players. And that was hard. It was hard to get down to 10. I had to leave UCF's lead guard, Themis Fulks, off. I had to leave Richie Saunders off. I hated doing that. I had to leave Milan Momcilovic off. Those were the 3 hardest cuts for me. But I didn't see a way to have a team that didn't include these 10 guys. Obviously, Toppin and DeBonsa 1-2. Those were the first 2 names. Those were the easiest. Taman Lipsey is Iowa State's best player. He's on the list. Complete guard. Everything you want in a floor leader. Arizona's undefeated. They get 2 guys. That's natural. Koa P. and Braden Berries, both of their freshmen. And I hated to leave Jalen Bradley off. I hated to leave the big kid whose name I can't pronounce off. With respect to him. Not Tobe Awaka, the other one, the one who starts. Krivax. Or Krivash, I believe. I think you have to you really step on that S at the end. Krivash. I hated leaving him off. But Pete and Berries are their 2 best players. So they're both first team all-league. Christian Anderson at Texas Tech leads the league in assists, 7.5 assists per game. Outstanding playmaker, dead-eye shooter, really, really good player. Joshua Jefferson makes the team for me from Iowa State. The 17-8-5 is awesome. Those are big-time numbers. You can't leave that off the all-league team. I had to put 2 Cougs on, and I mean Houston Cougs, not BYU Cougs. Kingston Flemings, the freshman, and Emmanuel Sharp, the veteran, both made the team for me. I think those are their 2 most important guys. And then the 10th spot, I had to give it to Darren Peterson. And this is the reason that I would include Peterson, even though he has been inactive, he has missed games, he has missed second halves of games. He's only played over 30 minutes, I think twice in conference play. I had to get him on the first team at the midway point because when he is on the court, can you argue he's not one of the best 10 players in the league? I don't think you can do that. Can you argue he's not one of the best 5 players in the league? I almost think you could argue he's the most talented player in the Big 12 based on what we've seen. Obviously can't go far enough to make him the player of the year at the midway point, but can't leave him off the all-league team. You can't. He's too good. And hopefully he plays enough in the second half of the season. And, I mean, the arrow is trending in a good direction for that. Hopefully he plays enough in the second half of the year that that's not a controversial selection by the time the season is over. But I had to get him on the team. He's one of the 10 best players in the conference, and the team wouldn't look right without him. So that's my first team all-league. So Darren Peterson from Kansas, A.J. DeBonsa from BYU, Kingston Flemings and Emmanuel Sharp from Houston, Christian Anderson, J.T. Toppin from Texas Tech, Joshua Jefferson, Taman Lipsey from Iowa State, Braden Berries, and Koa Pete from Arizona. Where'd I mess up? Tell me on the text line, 785-272-9429, or in the live chat on the YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk. We got What Is Wrong With You coming up next. CJ Moore is going to join us to talk some Big 12 hoops in just a bit. Stick with us on 580 Sports Talk. It is What Is Wrong With You time here on 580 Sports Talk. 2 new stories today. And joining me for What Is Wrong With You today is Brendan Dworzinski. Hi, Brendan.
What's up? How we doing?
I feel better than I sound.
I have had a scratchy voice way more often this year than any other winter of my entire life, has exemplified a few times on this very program. So I sympathize 100%. The other thing, too, that doesn't help me, I think tea is the most disgusting drink on the face of the earth. So having like, oh, let's put some honey in tea. That'll make you feel better. I'd rather just continue to feel like I'm swallowing knives. The worst. I hate it. Like drinking dirt water.
Have you tried a lot of honey?
Yes.
Like a lot?
I can't. Well, maybe not enough. Clearly, it tastes like filth to me. I can't do it.
A little sugar maybe in it too. I don't know if that's a great idea, but like, do what you got to do. Like,
have a little Southern sweet tea.
There you
go. That'll help.
That's what's up.
It's like drinking juice.
2 news stories saying what is wrong with you. Our current champ. I'm in love with a stripper gentleman who paid over $300 in counterfeit bills to buy a bouquet for a stripper.
I love like the idea of that dude explaining the story to a friend. Like, dude, you bought a stripper a bunch of gifts? Well, no, hold on. I stole the gifts that I gave to her. Yeah. Oh, so much better.
Yes, I paid with movie set money. It's wild. How do you obtain that? Anyhow, 2 news stories. Brendan, let you go first.
All right. My story for us today, let me get my link open here. I'm going to be honest. I knew what story Dan had picked before I picked mine. I had actually seen it in the news. It was going to be hard to beat Dan's today, but my story is going to take us to Bakersfield, California, known for being not always the most pleasant town in America, where fists and poker chips both flew at the Hard Rock Casino Sunday. When a fight broke out, there is video obtained by several sources, including the New York Post. This fight even included someone getting stabbed. Don't worry, they didn't die. Bystander video shows several people scrapping at the Hard Rock Casino Tejon shortly after 1:30 a.m., including a woman in a brown leopard print ensemble who was seen slapping a man and eventually grappling him on the casino floor. Security tried to break up the out-of-control fracas, but the combatants kept piling in. Police responded to the scene and found the stabbing victim, who had moderate injuries and was treated at a local hospital. Again, importantly, not dead. The stabbing suspects had fled by the time officers arrived, but the investigators eventually tracked them down about 40 miles away from the casino. That's quite a long way. Miguel Valladolid, 40 years old, was arrested on charges of assault with a deadly weapon and conspiracy, while 37 and 36-year-olds Juan and Cristina Cueto were arrested on conspiracy charges. The cause of the altercation remains unclear. Here's your cause. It was after 1:30 at a casino.
Yep.
I'm amazed that doesn't happen more.
I was just about to say, man, 1:30 at a casino, lack of oxygen to the brain.
In Bakersfield?
People are having a bad night. Yeah, Bakersfield, just a general rule, is always ready to rumble.
Don't y'all know anything about Dwight Yoakam, Streets of Bakersfield? Not a pleasant place. He went to jail in that song.
Yeah, after midnight at casino, not a place I ever want to find myself.
No.
Just under any set of circumstances.
No, it is not.
Unless I'm up like several $1,000s and I'm in too good a mood to fight anybody.
When we were in Vegas a couple of summers ago, we were out at the casino well before midnight. Now, the caveat to that is my wife was also several months pregnant and was about to fall asleep standing up. So... So there are some caveats there, but yeah, 1:30 a.m. not good.
All right, my story today. We're going to France, Toulouse in particular, and there's an unidentified 24-year-old. You know, if they're unidentified, this is a wild story. They were rushed to the Rangil Accident and Emergency Center in the southwestern part of the country over the weekend, complaining of extreme discomfort. Why was he in discomfort? He had something up his butt. That something was an 8-inch long World War I artillery shell that was live. A live artillery shell from an over 100-year-old war. That guy looked at it and said, "What if I keister it?" While emergency surgery was being carried out, the object was found undetonated. The bomb squad had to be called in to defuse the shell. Staff and patients had to be evacuated from the emergency center. The shell, which dated back to 1918, was declared safe. Apparently, he will also face charges because he may have violated France's weapons legislation. Prosecutors are mulling legal action against him for handling Category A munitions. I knew the French were a little freaky, but come on.
I was getting a little worried when we started the description with 8 inches long. Yeah, man, I'm not really sure like you must have wanted to die, right? Like this must have been a death wish. Unless he didn't know that it was live, I guess.
Maybe he didn't know it was live, but first, I don't know where you stumble upon one of those things, and I don't know why your first idea is, will that fit in me?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of where, I know there are parts of the world where there are still explosive live munitions that have not been picked up yet by the authorities. I figured France was pretty much cleared out, and I guess this guy is now too. I don't know, man. This is so demented. I don't even have words for it.
That's a rocket, but it ain't in my pocket. I think that wins today. Does it beat I'm in love with a stripper?
Well, I really didn't think that story was going to get beaten, but yeah, I think it has to be.
He put an over 100-year-old object.
Aren't you worried about tetanus or something, dude?
I'd be worried about a lot of things.
Yeah.
I'd be worried about a lot of things. That is an exit only, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, it's just vulgar.
I know, man. We got to get out of this segment. That's a rocket, but it ain't in my pocket. That's our new winner.
Hey, do me a favor when you talk to CJ on the other side of the break. Check in on his updated thoughts on Miami, Ohio for me.
I will do that. That is Brendan Dorzinski. CJ Moore will join us next for the Big 12 basketball breakdown on 580 Sports Talk. We are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline by CJ Moore of The Athletic. He's the best college basketball feature writer in America, covers college hoops at The Athletic, and joins us every Thursday here for the Big 12 basketball breakdown. CJ, before we really get into it, I have to ask, Peterson versus DeBonsa on Saturday at Allen Fieldhouse maybe didn't deliver the goods for the full 40 minutes, but that was two guys certainly who have an NBA all-star ceiling. And it got me to thinking, CJ, I know you've seen a lot of college basketball, been to a lot of college basketball games. Who's the best NBA player that you saw in college?
Kevin Durant. Easy.
Yeah, that is an easy one, isn't it? Were you?
He was unreal.
Yeah. Were you? Were you covering him then, or was that in what capacity?
No, it was my senior year of college. So I was standing in the front row of the student section, and my last game as a student in college. watch that one. So
wow.
yeah. But he's the easy answer.
See, I've seen a handful of all-stars. My answer is probably either Jalen Brunson at the 2018 Final Four or Tyrese Halliburton, and neither of those guys were like lottery picks, which begs my second question. Who was the guy you were most certain was going to be a great NBA player that did not end up being a great NBA player that you saw in college?
Probably Marvin Bagley.
I wondered if it would be him. My answer was Josh Jackson. I would have bought all the Josh Jackson stock, and I thought somebody's going to fix that busted jumper, and then he's going to be great.
Yeah.
Nobody fixed the busted jumper, as it turned out.
Yeah.
That was a misevaluation on my part. CJ Moore joining us here on the Big 12 basketball breakdown on 580 Sports Talk. Well, CJ, we're at the midway point of the Big 12 season, a little past it now with 3 games last night. But at the midway point, and I gave my thoughts on this earlier, but I'm curious about yours. Who do you think right now is the most outstanding player in the Big 12? If you had to submit a ballot right now, who would be the player of the year for you?
Probably Joshua Jefferson.
Okay, he'd get that award. I mean, what has been the reason behind his improvement this season? Because he got my nod for midseason most improved player, and I'm pretty sure he's going to win that award pretty handily and be a first-team all-league guy. But how did that happen? How did he go from like a nice player for them last year to a guy who's got a chance to be an All-American?
I think they needed more scoring, obviously, this year. They played a lot through their shooting guards the last couple of years. Those were like their go-to guys. So I think just the opportunity to be a go-to guy, they've played through him a lot. He's been excellent on both ends of the floor. And I think it's just confidence, like having the opportunity to, sometimes bring the ball up the floor and do those kinds of things. And second year in the system, he's just one of those like power forwards that can play on the perimeter. It's a really, really tough matchup that can overpower smaller guys, can, speed past bigger guys. So he's been excellent this year. But yeah, he'd probably be my answer. I think JT Toppin, if they win enough games, will be under consideration. Kingston Flemings, if Houston ends up winning the league or maybe just finishing a game behind, would be under consideration. I don't know that Arizona necessarily has somebody that would win the award just because they're so balanced.
What about Coach of the Year? Are you a big believer in Coach of the Year going to the coach who most exceeds expectations, or do you think that you look at a guy like Tommy Lloyd's got one of 2 undefeated teams in the country and it's a no-brainer right now at this moment?
I think Coach of the Year is like the dumbest award ever, just because it's so hard to define, right?
Right.
So I'm not a fan of the award in general, but if I were to pick, I'd probably go Tommy, just because like I was high on him in the preseason. I think I had him 6th nationally in the preseason, because I was just some guy was just yelling at me on Twitter about how Arizona was picked like 6th in the Big 12, and I was like, well, I had them 6th nationally, so slow down there. But the fact that they're undefeated, 9-0 in this league, we'll see what happens the rest of the way. But to date, I think he'd probably be the best choice.
We're joined by CJ Moore here on 580 Sports Talk, covers college basketball for The Athletic. Joins us every Thursday at this time on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. I handed out all the awards at the midseason. I gave my Defensive Player of the Year award to Flory Badunga at the midseason, because if Bill Self says he's the best player in the country, then best defender in the country, then he's the best defender in the country. I'm going to listen to Bill Self when he says something like that.
A little biased.
A little bit biased.
I'm there with you. He's pretty good.
So what exactly has made him so transformative to Kansas's defense? And I'm not talking just about what he's done. It's the knock-on effect, too, that it's made the rest of the scheme so effective, because now they're up in the top 10 in KenPom in defense, where early in the conference season, they were really struggling on that side. What has been the schematic change that Flory's been able to carry out so well, and how has that helped the other 4 guys on the floor with him?
Well, I think the reason for the climb recently is more mentality and just like buying into, all right, we've got to be an elite defensive team. But with Florida this season in general, like, you know, the last couple of years they've had to hide Hunter Dickinson. You can basically run any kind of scheme you want with Flory, and they've switched a lot this year. I had a stat in my top 25 this week. I went through and watched all his defensive possessions where he switched on to a guard in Big 12 play, and it was something like the guards were shooting like, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was like 4 of 18 or something like that, and like half those misses he had blocked. So he's been elite at guarding multiple positions. He's been really good as a rim protector, weak side shot blocker. He just does it all. Like he basically makes it so that you don't really have a weakness in your pick and roll defense because of the center. And you can just switch everything, and you can, like I said, you can play different schemes because he's so versatile on the defensive end. And his mentality, I think, has been adopted by the other guys, where they have really embraced, like, hey, we're going to be in a elite defensive team. And you see a guy like Bryson Tiller, who I don't think was that good a defender maybe a month ago, and he's starting to play really good defense. And in the games where Darren Peterson was playing, I thought his defense was not very good once he made his return. But in the last few, when he's on the floor, he's been a lot better defensively as well.
Do you think we're starting to trend towards more of Darren Peterson on the floor? Because they had the quick turnaround from Saturday to Monday, and he came out early in that second half. And I think a lot of people said, if he puts those heating pads on, we might not see him again. But obviously he played down the stretch. And even though he didn't play a great game, I thought Texas Tech defended him really well for the better part of Monday night. He obviously hit the 2 big shots at the end. Do you think now that Kansas is starting to find its rhythm both with and without him, and such a way that's really going to benefit him when they do get more of him, which we still assume they will?
Yeah, I mean, I sure hope that it's going to be where he's going to get to the point where he's just playing near the end of games, and there's not a question of like, oh man, is he going to sub out at some point and be done? But I mean, he's finished 2. I guess it's now 2 of the last 4 he's finished. Let's see how he gets through the weekend before we're like, we're back to, just he's going to play and it's not going to be an issue. We'll see. But as far as KU getting used to playing with them and without him, I think they're in a much better spot than they were in early January, where there was definitely a lack of rhythm when he was on the floor, just because they hadn't had a lot of minutes with him out there. And there's as Self has said, there's the temptation to just kind of watch him go and not everybody else be aggressive. But I think they're finding that happy medium the last couple weeks.
Taking a look at some other teams in the Big 12 Conference, BYU lost last night at Oklahoma State. The Cougars still do not have a top 25 Ken Pom win this year. They got a huge night from DeBonce. He scored 36, but that didn't matter. They lost the game. What is the flaw for BYU right now that's maybe keeping them from making that leap from they're a really good team to they're a bona fide Final Four contender?
I mean, I think last year they had an elite bench, and not having that depth is hurt. And then the other thing is just like they get off to awful starts. Connecticut, they were down by like close to 20 or around 20. Arizona, they were down around 20. Kansas, they were down around 20. Even in their best win of the season, Clemson, they were down. Here, I'll click on it real quick. They were down 22 to Clemson. That's their best win of the season. They came back and won that. And then Oklahoma State last night, down quite a bit. I think they were down 15 at one point. So just awful starts and having to rush back. Like, there's just no, like, you just can't win consistently against good teams doing that. So I don't know why they start so poorly, but I do think their lack of depth has hurt them. Maybe, when one of your guys is struggling early, you can't turn to the bench and hope somebody else will come in and bail you out, because those starters have to play a lot of minutes.
Couple more questions for CJ Moore of The Athletic, joining us for the Big 12 basketball breakdown here on 580 Sports Talk. Speaking of BYU, they've got a marquee game on Saturday at home, a little late night at the Marriott in Provo as they host number 8 Houston. What do you make of this matchup? What do you think will define this Cougar versus Cougar matchup? And could this be the game that gets BYU maybe their signature win?
Yeah, it could. I mean, we'll see. Can they handle Houston's physicality? I think the most similar matchup they've had is Arizona, and I thought BYU's shot selection and their turnovers led to Arizona. BYU's defense actually wasn't too bad in that game, but their shot selection and their turnovers led to Arizona getting a lot of easy transition stuff. Arizona ended up scoring 86 points in that game. And when it got away from them, it was because of BYU's offense and, just kind of being impatient. And when you go against an elite defense, I think the temptation is to try to take quick shots or, make plays you're not capable of making. So will they be able to pick on Houston's pick and roll coverage? Rob Wright, it's going to be a huge game for him and the decisions he makes. But when BYU shares it and the ball's really moving, they can be pretty hard to stop. But both Devonsa and Wright have the tendency to get sticky fingers and just to dominate the ball. And I think they're going through a little bit of that right now, to where you got guys that's trying to do a little bit too much, and you're not playing, really sharing it and moving the ball.
Last one for you, CJ. Marquee matchup of the weekend in college basketball, as it is every time it pops up on the schedule. It's Duke and North Carolina. They play in Chapel Hill on Saturday, a top 15 matchup. Obviously, the player to watch for Duke in this game is Cam Boozer. In what ways can he help Duke pass this North Carolina team on the road? I know you wrote about him a couple of weeks ago. He's seems to be really increasing his abilities as a facilitator, somebody they can run a lot of offense through.
Yeah, he's the guy they put the ball in his hands and they set ball screens for, and have him be the initiator and pick and roll. He's been the best player in college basketball. They'll have to stop him in the post. Do you bring a post double? He's torn those up. It's been a bad idea to bring post doubles. The one thing North Carolina has is they do have length and athletes inside. And I think the one thing he has struggled with, you saw this against Kansas. If you make him shoot over length, he doesn't always shoot a super high percentage, but he does as good a job as anybody at creating angles with his body and his strength. So, North Carolina might have the antidote to slow him down, but we'll see. He's been pretty incredible lately. I mean, all season really, but he seems to be even getting better as we go.
CJ Moore covers college basketball for The Athletic. He is the best college basketball writer feature in America, and he joins us every Thursday here on 580 Sports Talk for the Big 12 basketball breakdown. CJ, enjoy the hoops this weekend. We'll do it again next week.
Will do. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, Bet. That is CJ Moore. We'll take a time out, come back. We will wrap up this hour of 580 Sports Talk after this.
WIBW, Topeka.
Our thanks again to CJ Moore for joining us for the Big 12 basketball breakdown. Always enjoy talking ball with CJ. Makes you smarter about the game. He knows so much. He understands it so well, and I think explains it really well. So I always enjoy having him on to talk some hoops. A couple of thoughts on my mid-season Big 12 awards. Question from the 785, how'd you leave off PJ Haggerty? He's third in scoring in the Big 12. He's got a slight chance at Newcomer of the Year because he's been doing all that scoring, but you can't put a guy on a team that's 1-8 on the all-league team. You can't do it. Same reason, like Terrence Moore is also scoring at a high level for Utah, but he's not a thought either because his team is 1-8. It's no disrespect to Haggerty. He's having a good year. But he's having a good year on a bad team. You reward the players who are playing well for the good teams. I think on the all league honors. Coming up at the 5 o'clock hour, we got headlines. We're going to play a little either or over under together and a Super Bowl 60 coaching thought. That's all coming up on the final hour of 580 Sports Talk on WIBW. Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk, hour number 3 on this Thursday afternoon. I am Dan Lucero. Thank you so much for hanging out today on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and our Facebook page, WIBW News. We got one more hour to spend together. If my voice sounds improved at all, the MVP of today's show is my beautiful and loving wife, who, I don't know, maybe she heard me driving home, picking up our son from daycare, and decided, I got to get this guy something to get through the rest of the show. She went and picked me up a tea at Starbucks, and I've been sipping on that during the commercial break, and I think it is helping. I feel better anyway. Maybe I sound a little better too. So we make it to the finish line tonight. I owe my wife one. And I guess you all do too by proxy, because dead air wouldn't be much fun for any of us. So that is the latest on my my vocal status for the remainder of the show. Like I said, one more hour to spend together, and we're going to spend part of it having a little fun back and forth. We're going to do either or over under coming up in a little while. I will give you my either or for you when we break before we're done with headlines, and then our second segment we'll do either or over under. And I'll look for yours. You can submit your either or over unders to me either via the live chat on our YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk, or the text line, 785-272-9429. And then you can also answer the either or that I give to you, because I'm genuinely curious. So we'll play the game together today. That's coming up later on this hour. Also, a thought about the two head coaches in Super Bowl 60, particularly Seahawks head coach Mike Macdonald. And in a league where it seems like everybody's looking for the next Sean McVay, do maybe teams start looking for the next Mike Macdonald moving forward? We'll get into that a little bit later on, a little Super Bowl talk on the program today. Come on, you didn't think I was going to go a whole show and not bring up the Super Bowl. The Seahawks are in it. Isn't that cool? Isn't that something? I got the jersey on today. Got the Earl Thomas LOB jersey on today. I'm fired up, man. 3 days out. I'm ready. So we'll get to some Super Bowl. But as I mentioned, we got a lot of headlines to get to at the top of this hour as well, and we'll start there. Before we do that, one more reminder. The text line is open, 785-272-9429, 785-272-9429. Also, the live chat on YouTube. Pop into YouTube, 580 Sports Talk. We're live on video. Leave a comment, leave a question, leave your either or over under. Interact with your fellow listeners as we finish up the program today here on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel at 580 Sports Talk. Well, let's get into those headlines. We'll start with the Royals headline today. They have inducted the latest member of the Royals Hall of Fame. And I'll be honest, this is somebody that I had assumed was already in the Royals Hall of Fame, but it is official. John Wathan is the 2026 inductee for the Royals Hall of Fame. And there's not much that John Wathan did not do for the Kansas City Royals. Not only a long playing career for the club, but also a coach and manager of the team. He was a broadcaster for a time, a scout, a roving instructor, a special assistant of player development, and now he is a Royals Hall of Famer. Nicknamed the Duke, I guess he could do a really good John Wayne impression, which is a cool skill to have. John Wathan played 10 years in the Bigs, all of them with the Royals. 572 games as a catcher, also played first base in the outfield. Had a .262 lifetime batting average, .318 on base, .343 slug. Stole 105 bases. He debuted in 1976. That was the first division championship season in Royals history. And his final big league season was 1985, which, of course, was the first world championship in Royals history. His best season was 1980. He batted .305 that year. was 24th in the MVP voting, drove in 58 runs, stole 17 bases, primarily caught for the 1980 Royals. Also had a year in 1982 where, as the team's primary catcher, he stole 36 bases in 45 attempts. Now, I am not old enough to remember John Wathan's playing career, but I do remember learning of John Wathan in the context of catchers who steal bases, because notoriously, catcher, not really a position where you got a bunch of guys who are stealing a lot of bases. But I remember hearing about John Wathan in that context, that he was a catcher who could steal bases. 36 steals in 1982, which was his second best season by wins above replacement. After his playing career concluded, he was a coach and manager for the Royals, managed the Royals for 5 seasons from 1987 to 1991, took over on an interim basis late in 1987, guided them to 2 winning seasons, including a 92 and 70 mark in 1989 before being fired 37 games into the 1991 season. Also briefly was an interim manager for the California Angels in 1992. Beyond that, he returned to the Royals in 1996 as a broadcaster, did that for a couple of years, spent the next 2 decades working as a scout and in player development for the Royals. He will become the 32nd member of the Royals Hall of Fame, and I'm sure the Royals will announce soon what day will be the day that he is celebrated at Kauffman Stadium. Well-deserved for the Duke. John Wathan, a Royals lifer, a solid ball player, a unique player in being a catcher who could steal bases. He's a fun one to use on the immaculate grid. Players who, when you get the Royals 30 stolen base square, everybody's going to put Bobby Witt, or, if you're a little older, you're going to put Willie Wilson. You put John Wathan in there, you get a really good score. So, John Wathan, newest member of the Royals Hall of Fame. Next headline. Let's go to a little more of a local headline here. We have the Big 12 preseason baseball awards. That's right, college baseball right around the corner. Preseason favorite, TCU, receiving 13 of the 14 first-place votes from the coaches. Arizona second, followed by West Virginia and Arizona State. Kansas tied with Oklahoma State for 5th. K-State 7th, 1 rung behind. Then Cincinnati, Texas Tech, UCF, Baylor, Houston, BYU, and Utah rounding out the preseason poll. I'm not sure why BYU and Utah are so bad at baseball. Maybe they're not playing a lot of baseball in Utah. I don't know. Obviously, Iowa State, Colorado do not field baseball teams. 3 members of the Jayhawks were named to the preseason All Big 12 team. Infielder Brady Bollinger was one of 3 unanimous selections to the squad. Also, DH Dariel Osoria and starting pitcher Dominic Bagley were named to the preseason team. Preseason player of the year, TCU outfielder Sawyer Stroh-Snyder. Preseason pitcher of the year in the league, TCU hurler Tommy Lepore. Freshman of the year, TCU's Lucas Franco. And newcomer of the year, Dean Toigo from Arizona State. So there you have it. Those are the Big 12 preseason awards. Getting excited for college baseball. Should be another good season. Of course, Kansas made the tournament last year. They were 0-2 in barbecue. Kansas State, 2 years removed from a super regional appearance, trying to get back to that level under Pete Hughes. I expect both teams to be competitive in the Big 12 this season. We're 8 days away, in fact, from Kansas State baseball opening up, and you'll get to hear some select K-State baseball games throughout their season right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. Let's swing it to football for our next headline. An injury scare for the Seattle Seahawks heading into Super Bowl 60 as late in Wednesday's practice, star rookie safety Nick Eamon-Warry suffered a low right ankle sprain. He rolled it over in practice late Wednesday and left the practice field under his own power, so was listed as limited on the day's participation report. Today, both head coach Mike Macdonald and Eamon-Warry himself said that he expects to play. McDonald said, quote, he's doing great, moving around. Just got to make sure we handle it the right way. Probably going to be over careful and over cautious at this point to make sure we're rolling going into the weekend. Eman Wari said, that kind of caught me off guard. We weren't going hard out there, but I just rolled it. I'll be good to go for Sunday, so I'm looking forward to that. You have to basically be missing a limb to miss the Super Bowl. You know, I never pay too much mind. There was a little to do last week. You might remember around Drake May's shoulder. He dinged it up in the AFC Championship game, and he wasn't listed as a practice participant. He didn't throw for the media. There was a little consternation there, but he's in full practicing this week. He's going to be fine. Sam Darnold in the oblique, he's going to be fine. Nick Emanwari's going to be fine. If they're upright, they're going to play in the Super Bowl. That's just how it goes. So, bit of a scare there yesterday. I'll admit I freaked out a little bit, but once I heard he walked off under his own power, I said, oh, he'll play. He'll play Sunday. I'm not worried now. So that is the latest injury news ahead of Super Bowl 60. The one concern that the Patriots do have is Robert Spillane, one of their standout linebackers. He did not practice yesterday, dealing with an ankle injury. And, typically you don't practice, you don't play. But again, Super Bowl's a different deal. If he can stand up, I got to imagine Spillane is going to try and give it a go for the Patriots on Sunday. Another NFL headline while we have a minute. The first Australia game in NFL history has had their opponents announced. I didn't realize Steve Irwin's son made the announcement on the Pat McAfee show. That is a wild sentence. What a strange thing. Steve Irwin's son announces first ever Australia NFL game on the Pat McAfee show. Anyway, it'll be an NFC West affair. The 49ers and the Rams, they'll play at the Melbourne Cricket Ground in Melbourne, Australia. Again, first game in the history of that country and part of an NFL record 9 international games scheduled for 2026. Next headline, let's get to some baseball. Big surprise on the hot stove last night. Framber Valdez is a Detroit Tiger. 3 years, $115 million, $38.3 million per year for the 32-year-old Southpaw workhorse, who is one of the most durable starting pitchers in baseball and has been not just durable, but outstanding in his field the last half decade or so. Valdez started 31 games for the Astros last year, went 13-11, 3.66 earned run average, struck out 187 batters in 192 innings. He has, over the course of his 8-year career, which he has spent all of with the Astros, won 81 games, lost 52, and posted a career earned run average of 336 with 1,053 strikeouts in 1,080 and 2/3 innings. He is a 2-time All-Star and has finished in the top 11 of Cy Young voting 4 times, also in the top 20 of MVP balloting twice. He's really good. He's a bit of a red ass. He and his catchers have not always gotten along. He and his managers have not always gotten along. And that may have been part of the reason why Valdez remained on the market as long as he did. But the Tigers were the team willing to pony up and give Valdez the largest average annual value contract ever for a left-handed pitcher. Irony of ironies. The Tigers did that last night after they spent the day in an arbitration hearing arguing that their established left-handed ace, Tarik Skubal, widely regarded as the best pitcher in baseball and the reigning Cy Young Award winner in the AL, was not actually that good. The gulf between the Tigers and Skubal in arbitration was a staggering $13 million. Skubal was asking for $32 million for a year, the Tigers were arguing for $19 million. Today, the mediator, in arbitration, sided with Skubal. So he will be paid out his $32 million. And Framber Valdez is going to make more than that, even though nobody thinks Valdez is a better pitcher than Skubal. But it does fortify a Tigers rotation that really hasn't had anybody solid behind Skubal these last couple of years. They had Jack Flaherty last season. He was all right, but that was not a guy you felt really great about taking the ball in game 2 of a playoff series. Well, now you have 2 guys you feel really good about taking the ball in a playoff series. And in a 5-game series, you got to beat Skubal twice. And in a 7-game you're going to face him twice. And in a 7-game series, you're going to face Skubal and Valdez twice. It is a big deal move for the Tigers, and I do think that, as a texter from the 785 suggests, it does make the Tigers, I think, the clear favorite in the Central. I think right now, betting-wise, they're going to be the clear favorite going in. So it is a big deal move. It is a surprise. Kind of came out of nowhere. The Tigers didn't really feel like they were going to be major free agency players this year, and then they dropped $38.3 million over the next per year for the next 3 on Framber Valdez. Now, buyer beware with any free agent pitcher. Valdez is 32. He, again, has not always had the best of relationships with his catchers. He has intentionally crossed up his catchers before. If you don't know what that means, it's intentionally firing a fastball at them when they are expecting a curveball just to prove a point. Like, that's something that, if you're a good teammate, you don't do that, and he's intentionally done that before. So he hasn't gotten along great with his catchers or his managers, but when he's out there, he's a horse. And that's a menacing 1-2 punch at the top of the Tigers rotation, which is why I said earlier on the show, we opened the show with some baseball talk today. It's really important that the Royals 1-2 lefty punch stays healthy, because Skubal and Valdez have really good health track records recent years. Cole Reagans and Kris Bubic, unfortunately, not so much. But I don't think it's a gulf between the Skubal-Valdez duo and the Reagans-Bubic duo. I don't think it's a Grand Canyon-sized chasm between what the Tigers are going to get from their top 2 lefties and what the Royals can get from their top 2. And I think the rest of the rosters, I think the Royals compare pretty well to Detroit. I think they're probably better than them in some departments. But having the best pitcher in baseball and then being able to back him with a workhorse who can, so you got 2 guys give you 7 innings each start, and that really lessens the impact of what for the Tigers was not a very good bullpen last year. And it makes you really, really tough in the playoffs. Got to get there. But if they get to the postseason, they're going to be very dangerous with those 2 guys up top. That was big baseball news last night. We got another headline here from college basketball. You've heard of the phrase crying poor? Kelvin Sampson, head coach of the Houston Cougars, literally did that after they beat UCF yesterday. They won 79-55 over the Knights. And Kelvin Sampson got started talking about his recruiting and the caliber of his roster, and basically said they don't have enough money. Quote, "We have a very poor athletic department. We're poor. We were poor when I got here, and we're still poor. We probably have the lowest budget of anybody in Power 4. The way our recruiting is going, we have to stop at some point because we don't have the money to keep bringing in many good players, and that's not easy for us to do." Sampson added that his current roster is, quote, "getting exactly what the market is for them," and also, quote, "not starving," end quote. But he warned that future roster building could become more challenging unless his athletic department boosts revenue. Quote, "Teams that have the best recruiting classes usually have the most money. That's the way it is today. Who knows who else will sign? Depends on how much money we have," end quote. I really respect Kelvin Sampson. And I respect that he does not sugarcoat things, that he is honest from the podium, that he was blunt from the podium. I respect greatly that unlike a lot of coaches who have run from the grind, who have decided that college basketball is not for them because they don't like the NIL era as they know it, Kelvin Sampson embraces it as part of the job, even though he's one of the older coaches in Division I and in Power 4 basketball. I remember him at the Big 12 Media Days, not this year, but last, saying, look, it's just part of the job. I'm a teacher. I teach the game. This is what I love to do. I'm going to keep doing it. And you just have to roll with the punches, essentially. You have to deal with whatever new realities come to your industry. That's always been the case. And he's not running from it. And I respect that a lot more than I respect the Tony Bennett's of the world who run from it when it gets too hard. This isn't the job I wanted. And make a scene about it on the way out. I respect Kelvin Sampson's approach. I don't know why Houston's athletic department is so poor. Do you know whose name is on the side of their arena? Gentleman named Tillman Fertitta. It's the Fertitta Center that they play in. Tillman Fertitta owns the Houston Rockets. He also owns Landry's, the entertainment company. He's also, and I didn't know this, the United States ambassador to Italy. I did not know that. His net worth as of last year is estimated at $10.7 billion. Are you telling me Houston basketball can't get a taste of that? You telling me Tillman's shorting Cougar hoops? Your name's on the arena, man. He went there. Didn't get a degree, but he went there. You can't break him off a little of that 10.7 bill. I mean, $1 million buys you a starter, right? You know how many starters you could buy for Houston basketball with $10.7 billion? I don't know. Maybe Kelvin's got to reach out through his diplomatic channels, get a hold of the guy whose name is on the side of his arena and say, hey, break us off. We're in a good spot right now. You want to keep us in a good spot? Break us off. I think that's entirely reasonable. I do it for Kelvin Sampson. I do it for that program. That'll do it for our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, we're going to play either or over under. So I'm looking for your either or over under questions for me. You can text them 785-272-9429. You can also drop them in the live chat if you're watching on YouTube at 580 Sports Talk. My question for you is that either or, and I'd love your answers in the chat or on the text line. Winter Olympics start this weekend. Which do you prefer? The sports on snow or the sports on ice? The snow sports or the ice sports in the Winter Olympics? Which ones do you like better? Let me know. Give me your questions. We'll come back. We'll play either or over under after this on 580 Sports Talk. All right. The question for you, the listener, here on either or over under. Do you prefer the snow sports in the Winter Olympics? So that's sports contested on snow. That's your skiing sports, snowboarding, cross-country skiing, biathlon, ski jumping, those sports. Or do you prefer the ones on ice, hockey, figure skating, speed skating, curling, the sliding sports, luge and bobsled and skeleton? The ice sports or the snow sports? Which do you like best? That's my question to you. Text your answer, 785-272-9429, or drop it in the YouTube live chat. And also, text or chat your either or over-under questions for me. Let's see. We do have some answers in. Mark H says, boy, I'd love to say both. I will say snow. So Mark is a vote for snow. Vance says snow because ice includes figure skating, and he is not a figure skating fan. Brendan and I were talking about this off air the other day. Who was your Olympic crush when you were a teenager or young adult? Sasha Cohen was mine in figure skating in, I want to say 02 or 06, one of those years. So I got nothing bad to say about figure skating. Mark asks, are luge and bobsled snow or ice sports? Those are ice sports. The sliding sports are ice sports. I have this odd fixation for curling. No reason, it just fascinates me. Mark B., you are not alone in that. There are a lot of diehard curling fans out there. I will be looking forward to catching a little bit of Olympic curling. The prelims started. They were on Peacock. They were on the other morning. My son didn't really want to watch that. He wanted to watch Barney instead. You know, we gave him the choice. He on Peacock, he chose Barney. That's fine. But no, I love curling. Curling's great. Great sport. My answer is ice. For the record, I like the ice sports better because the ice includes hockey, and we got the NHLers are back for hockey this year, so the hockey's going to be must see. I've always thought speed skating is really fun to watch, especially the short track stuff. Curling, obviously, I get a kick out of the sliding sports. Bobsled, skeleton, I don't understand like what kind of drugs you have to be on to decide. Yeah, I'm going to go down this really fast. Head first. Yeah, sign me up for that. I feel like some of those sports be real easy to get into the Olympics if you just volunteer to do it. Like, I like kind of like how Jamaica got a bobsled team. Couldn't you be like, I'm going to be Argentina's representative in skeleton. I'm going to be the only person in Argentina. Well, that's a pretty big country. Maybe like a smaller country. Like I'm going to be the only person in Paraguay who does skeleton. I'm going to be the Paraguayan skeleton champion. I'm going to get in the Olympics that way. Chasing Good Golf says snow sports. There's a vote for the snow sports. Says let's go Lindsey Vonn. Also Shaun White is a great watch. Man, shout out to Lindsey Vonn. She tore her ACL like 5-6 days ago, and she's going to ski at the Olympics. She said, look, I'm 41 years old. I'm not doing this when I'm 45. I'm doing it now on one good knee or no good knees. It does not matter. This is my time. I'm doing this. I'm not letting a torn ACL slow me down. That's incredible. Like, I wouldn't even I'd walk up and down a flight of stairs on a torn ACL. She's going to ski in the Olympics. That's just awesome. Absolutely awesome. An answer from the live chat. Also, the only sport on snow I'll watch is snowboarding, and I'll watch Lindsey Vonn. Outside of that, I like the ice sports, curling, hockey, and bobsled. Olympic Roundup coming up next week. Monday, Olympic Roundup will be back. I know you can't wait. I know you can't wait to hear that theme song again. All right, how about your either-ors and over-unders? I'll take them again in the live chat on 580 Sports Talk or the text line 785-272-9429. We open with baseball today, so we got a baseball over-under from Vance in the live chat on YouTube. Bobby Witt's OPS in 2026, over-under 850. So that's a really interesting one, right? Because we don't know how his home park is exactly going to play. There'll be more home runs. Does that mean fewer doubles and triples? More of those balls becoming outs in exchange for more home runs? Bobby had an 852 OPS last year. His career OPS is at 844. I'm going to go over this year. I think the increase in home runs will get him comfortably over 850. He was at 852 last year, only hit 23 home runs, had 47 doubles, 6 triples. He's had 11 triples in a season before. He's gone over 45 doubles each of the last 2 years. I think he'll be a 30-homer guy again this year with plenty of extra base hits. I think he gets over 850. And the other part of it, too, is I think that his walk rate might not just hold steady. I think he might get walked a little more this year. Just the reputation, you're more likely at home runs. You're harder to pitch to. They're going to pitch him a little bit more carefully. And I think that his walk rate might jump a little bit. That help his on base as well. So I'll go over there. I like the over for Bobby Witt's on base or OPS. Here's another baseball one from Mark B. The Rockies win 55.5 games this season, over under 55.5 wins. They won 43 last year. I'm good with the over there just because it's really hard to be so bad that you lose 119 games. There's a lot that has to go wrong there. They're still going to lose 100. Make no mistake. 55 is probably a pretty good number for an over-under for them. But I think they'll get closer to 60. I think there's a real good chance that just having some adults in the room running the team who can help communicate like data to the players that they didn't get before because they just didn't bother with it. They had a front office who didn't want to mess with it. I think that the increase in research and data and analytics in that organization probably helps jump them up the win total ladder a little bit, but not so much that they're not going to lose 100. If I had to sit here right now, I'd say 59 and 103 for the Rockies. If they can avoid losing 100, that would be a big deal. Here's another either or Super Bowl party food. The big sandwich or pizza. Then go with pizza. Go with pizza there. That's easy thing to reheat. Like if it sits around for a while, you can throw it back in the microwave or you just eat it cold. You can mix and match. You go, I have a pepperoni slice and I'll go get like a meat lovers, or barbecue chicken pizza. You order a bunch of different kinds for everybody. I think the pizza is easier to do for a large group of people. Also, I ate pizza during the NFC Championship game and the Seahawks won. So probably going to do pizza again for the Super Bowl in a couple of days. Let's take one more here from Good Golf. With the Orioles, over under Orioles win total 80. I think they clear that with ease. I think the Orioles are probably about an 85 win team on the low end. I think that they need to still add a pitcher. They should have signed Framber Valdez. They go out and they sign like Zach Gallen or somebody. They'll be right back in the mix in the East. They're too talented not to be. They'll get to the mid upper 80s in wins. I think pretty comfortably. I think they clear 80 pretty easily. I'll take some more if you get them in during the break. Again, 785-272-9429. Also the live chat on our YouTube, 580 Sports Talk. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. A thought about a future coaching trend in the NFL, the chance of one based on this year's Super Bowl. That's coming up here on 580 WIBW. Here's a fun Olympic over-under from Andrew in the live chat on YouTube. What's the gutsiest Olympic performance? Carrie Strug on her busted ankle in 1996, gymnastics, or Lindsey Vonn skiing in these Olympics on a torn ACL? I guess you got to ask me if Lindsey Vonn's on the podium or not, because Carrie Strug's vault won Team USA the gold. I mean, you give it that context, I think that's got to be the answer. But it's hard to say one is gutsier than the other. It's different circumstances. That was just one vault for Strug where Vaughn's got to go down a mountain on a torn ACL. That's a good question. That's a really good question. I bet you get a lot of different answers on that one. But I got to go with Strug because it won the gold. Super Bowl 60 is Sunday, and the head coaches in this game are both what you would call defensive-minded head coaches, right? That's Mike Vrabel's playing background. He was a stalwart linebacker for many years and took that to his coaching tenure, first with the Titans, now with the Patriots. Mike Macdonald was the defensive coordinator of the Ravens before getting the Seahawks job 2 years ago. Will teams look at the success of Mike Macdonald and of Mike Vrabel? Well, he's a bit of a different case because he's a veteran coach. But so many times we have seen teams with coaching vacancies seeking out the hot, young, offensive coach. And typically that coach tends to come in this era from the Shanahan-McVay coaching tree. Mike LaFleur, hired by the Cardinals, is an example of that. Clint Kubiak is an example of that once he leaves Seattle to take the Raiders job, as is widely expected that he will. Matt LaFleur was that. He's been coached Packers for a while now. I think he's going on his 8th year next year. But he was an example of that. Kyle Shanahan obviously was an example of that. Sean McVay himself, he was kind of the first one. Zach Taylor, Joe Brady's a different case, but he's a different scheme background, but also young guy, offensive schemer. That has been the tendency for teams to look for that particular head coach. And I wonder if it's because there seem to be more examples of defensive coordinators who ended up not being great head coaches, but remained really good defensive coordinators. It's easier to think of guys who got a shot and failed as head coaches and then returned to being really excellent defensive coordinators. Steve Spagnuolo is a great example of this. He wasn't exactly a young hotshot when he got the job with the Rams about 15 years ago. But it didn't work out, and then he returned to being a coordinator. He's been a really, really good one. Brian Flores is an example. Wade Phillips, much better as a coordinator than he was as a head coach. He got 2 cracks at being a head coach. Vic Fangio got a crack at being a head coach. That didn't really work. It was not a good idea in Denver. Speaking of Denver, Vance Joseph is another example of that. So maybe the immediate, like the insta fail rate is higher for coaches like that. But I wonder if, particularly if the Seahawks win on Sunday, because everybody follows the leader, right? The old saying that's a well-worn cliche at this point. The NFL is a copycat league. You copy what works. And if the Seahawks win the Super Bowl and do so with a 36-year-old second-year head coach whose background is on the defensive side of the ball, does that then suggest to NFL teams that the guy we ought to be looking for to hire as our next head coach needs to be the guy who can slow down the Shanahan-McVay offense? The guy who has answers for the popular scheme in the NFL. And look, Mike Macdonald hasn't had every answer at every turn. The one team that really dominated them offensively this year was the Rams in 2 of their 3 meetings. But does the tide turn more in the direction of looking for that young defensive coordinator, like a Jesse Minter, who was just hired by the Ravens to be their new head coach? Zach Orr would be another example, young defensive coordinator with the Ravens. Maybe he's a guy that gets a more serious look in the next coaching cycle. But it does feel, anecdotally speaking, like it's easier to think about the defensive-minded coaches who have not worked out in recent years. Jonathan Gannon was the defensive coordinator of that Eagles team that had all those sacks until they got 0 in Super Bowl 57 against the Chiefs, and he was a failure as a head coach in Arizona. I bet he's a good defensive coordinator. He's in Green Bay. He landed on his feet. He'll be the DC in Green Bay. But he was a failure as a head coach. Robert Saleh's getting another chance, which I think the Jets are just a dead end, but he wasn't. He didn't. His first head coaching tenure did not work out. I do tend to think that's less Saleh's fault, but again, that's another example of a hot young defensive coordinator got the gig, didn't quite work out. D'Amico Ryans is an example in favor of you can hire the young defensive mind and you can get good results. The Texans have been a perennial playoff team under Ryans. But all of the fresh-faced young head coaches that get hired, they tend to be offensive guys. I wonder if Mike McDonald hoisting a Lombardi trophy changes how teams look at defensive-minded head coaches. Maybe not even just necessarily hiring a defensive coordinator. Maybe looking to hire a young defensive line coach or a young secondaries defensive backs coach and make them their head coach. Flip side, the Patriots win. Do teams look at the success of Mike Vrabel and say, it's less important to have the guy who's known for his scheme on either side of the ball, and more important to hire the culture builder, more important to hire the CEO. There aren't a ton of CEO head coaches in the NFL. Dan Campbell is an obvious example. But if Mike Vrabel wins one, is that what teams start to look for? Do they start to say, we're not worried about the scheme so much, we need a leader of men? Yeah, square jaw and a nicely trimmed beard and a rah-rah guy who knows how to hire good people around him. Those guys are harder to find. I think they're rarer, honestly. But they always say it's a copycat league. And whoever ends up winning on Sunday, the league is going to go in some direction that they are being led towards by either the Seahawks or the Patriots. Whether it's roster building, whether it's coach hiring, NFL will remain a copycat league. Jeffrey asked in the YouTube chat, any wagering on the Super Bowl this year? Jeffrey, I'm glad you asked. Quick preview of tomorrow's game. Super Bowl prop bets in the 4 o'clock hour. We'll have predictions, obviously. I'll give you some keys to the game. But we'll have some Super Bowl prop bets. We'll all get together and we'll put some gummy bears down on some of the notable prop bets for Super Bowl 60. So stay tuned to tomorrow's show, Jeffrey, and we'll give you some of that. We'll take one final timeout. We'll come back. We will put a wrap on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Final word time here on 580 Sports Talk. Made it to the end after all, didn't we, together? Hopefully, I've got enough steam for tomorrow's show and for high school basketball tomorrow night. Again, our 580 Preps game of the week tomorrow night, Topeka High and Washburn Rural. Yours truly and Larry Latimer on the call, unless I really can't talk. You know it'd be bad if I had to miss a basketball game. I want to be at the dungeon tomorrow night, so that's where I hope to get to talk to you on tomorrow night's 580 Preps game of the week doubleheader. Final word for me today. Started the countdown today. 50 days to opening day for the Kansas City Royals. And their chances of winning the Central took a hit last night when the Tigers added Framber Valdez to their pitching rotation to go along with the best pitcher in baseball, Tarek Skubal. That also makes them really left-handed in their rotation and, again, increases the thought that the Royals need to find some kind of right-handed bat, whether that's organizationally, whether that's Nick Lofton taking a step forward or Brandon Drury rediscovering old form as an NRI. Royals are going to need somebody who can stand in an outfield corner and help them against left-handed pitching. And maybe that's Lane Thomas. Maybe Lane Thomas is going to be a really big addition for this team this year and have to play in a lot of games against those left-handed studs. But that's one area where maybe the Royals could have done a little bit more to address. And now they really might feel like they should have done more if Framber Valdez is going to be a Detroit Tiger. That's it for us tomorrow. We're back with you tomorrow. That's it for us tonight. We're back with you tomorrow. My name is Dan Lucero. This is 580 Sports Talk. Good night.